Okay, testing. Can everyone hear me? Hello? Okay, great. Okay. Thank you for joining me for our fourth class on Jewish philosophy on radiotorah.com. My name is Rabbi Asher Meza, and I'll be teaching you tonight. We're still on the book, The 9 Questions People Ask About Judaism, by Dennis Prager and Rabbi Joseph Telushkin. And we left off on page 37. Last paragraph. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and just start. 5. Atheists who deny God because they have explored both sides of the issue. There remains a very small minority of atheists who do not fall into the first 4 categories. These individuals have come to the conclusion that there is no God, neither out of blind acceptance of an atheistic doctrine handed down to them, nor out of rebellion against home and environment, nor because God has been presented to them foolishly, nor out of an emotional reaction to tragedy. But after efforts to believe and lead a religious life, after reading intelligent presentations of the concept of God, and after sustained dialogue with sophisticated believers. Frankly, we have never met such people, though through their writings we are aware of their existence, the existence of such individuals. Yet even these extraordinary atheists still ascribe the existence of everything to chance. And most important, they still confront the greatest challenge to atheism. It renders morality subjective. As Dostoevsky wrote in The Brothers Karamazov, where there is no God, all is permitted. Atheism denies God. But what does it affirm? The answer is, of course, that atheism affirms nothing. Though this does not mean that atheists affirm nothing. On the contrary, atheists replace God with gods of their own, choosing humanity, art, reason, the state, secular ideologies, science, progress, revolution, culture, education, happiness, the self. The issue is not belief or non-belief, but belief in God or belief in other gods. At great cost in human life and suffering, however, we have learned that all these other gods have failed. That without God, each of these substitute values is meaningless and ultimately terribly dangerous because they become ends in themselves, beyond good and evil. Now, I have to agree with the author here. I also don't know such people. People who have done the research and still deny the possibility of God's existence. Not that I don't know righteous intellectuals who have chosen, let's say, conservative Judaism over orthodoxy. But I have failed to ever meet someone who, after weighing out all the evidence and arguments, still hold that they know for a fact that God does not exist. Friends, an agnostic simply says he doesn't know, but an atheist proclaims surely that he knows God does not exist. Okay, stay neutral like an agnostic. Maybe yes, maybe no. But to hear beautiful music, to fall in love, to see a child born, to see all the injustice in the world, and still remain adamant that there is nothing more, and to even deny that it would at least be a good thing for people to live as if God does exist. Friends, I thought I had a lot of faith. No, my friends. These atheists are the true believers. The true fanatics, the atheists. Why? Because as the book states, ultimately when there is no God, all is permitted. I was speaking with an atheist the other day, and he told me that although he was an atheist, out of all belief systems, he admires Judaism the most for its clear moral code. So I asked him if he had kids. He said, yeah. So I told him, at least for your kids' sake, didn't he agree that it would be better to raise his children in the Jewish faith with some instruction than to have them fend for themselves in life? Because I told him, who knows if your child would have the diligence to embrace humanism, right? They might end up becoming Christians or Muslims, or even worse, immoral people. Not that I consider Christians or Muslims immoral in any way, but I'm sure that he probably does. He would make his kids learn everything the hard way. And honestly, do we think that these atheists are happier people? Do they give more charity than the religious? Or do they value human life more? Yes, my friends, the atheist. The true fanatic. Actually, the Gemara brings down that the best doctors go to hell. Interesting statement. The best doctors go to hell. Why? Because it states that many great doctors fall into the trap of thinking they're the ones doing the actual healing. And why go to hell? Because whether we want to deny it or not, atheism, or adamantly denying the existence of the Creator, is one of the 3 cardinal sins in Judaism. As a matter of fact, it's brought down that atheism is worse than idolatry. But try telling that to Jews nowadays. Actually, a few weeks back, I had a man call me on the phone. And he told me that he was born a Jew. And that he recently began studying Judaism for the first time. And after careful analysis, he realized that he wanted to become more religious. So he started attending services at his local synagogue. He was marveled by the songs and the prayers, the religious unity he felt at that place. However, when he tried to formally join the synagogue to become a member, the rabbi asked him for proof that he was Jewish. So he brought him his grandmother's ketubah, her Jewish marriage contract. The rabbi said, fine. During their discussion, the man mentioned that his mother had converted to Christianity before he was born. The rabbi said, Christianity? I'm sorry, my friend. You're going to have to reconvert. My friends, modern day Judaism has its priorities upside down. Why upside down? Because if this man would have told the rabbi that his parents were both atheists from the former Soviet Union, the rabbi would have no problem having him join the shul. Actually, the state of Israel has a similar prerequisite for making aliyah, for immigrating to the state. Basically, Jews for Jesus are turned away, and an atheist Russian is accepted with open arms. And this is why I say that Jews nowadays have their priorities upside down. And it's not that I'm a sympathizer with Jewish Christians, because anyone who knows me and who's seen my videos know I'm not. But also, I won't deny that a religious Jew has more in common with a Christian and Christianity for that than they do with Islam. Has anyone ever pondered that idea? Now, many will say that the reason the Jew for Jesus was denied is because right when he would step foot in Eretz Israel, he would begin to proselytize. Well, friends, what do you think the atheist is going to do? You don't think the atheist also proselytizes? As a matter of fact, I think that one of the big reasons we have so many Jews off the derech nowadays is that we believe that there are no enemies from the Semitic gene pool, or at least the non-Christian Semitic gene pool. Friends, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Better a religious Christian than a secular Jew, for the world's sake. However, let me make this clear before I start getting a lot of angry emails. I would obviously rather see every secular Jew come back to Judaism. But if not, I would rather see every secular Jew become a devout Christian. Now you're probably thinking, how could you say that, Asher? Don't you know that a Christian or a Jewish Christian loses his soul? Look, of course I do, but a religious Jew, but as a religious Jew, I have to ask, what causes less harm to the world and humanity? Because when someone chooses to live an atheistical, amoral, or immoral life, he not only hurts himself, but he hurts others around him. By what? By proselytizing his beliefs. And don't kid yourself, most of them do it. But let's say if you would become a religious Christian, apart from hurting himself spiritually, I think the world would benefit from his ethics and values. I'd rather deal with one whammy rather than a double whammy. Even the Rambam said that Christians have worked, Christians and Christianity have worked to spread ethical monotheism more than Jews have. It's an interesting notion. Actually, once I heard Dennis Prager say on his show that he was once at a convention for Soviet Jewry, and they decided to pray mincha, the afternoon prayer. He saw a staunch Jewish communist sitting through the Amidah prayer, and the rabbi told him, "No, why aren't you davening?" He said, "Why am I not davening? Because I don't believe in God." So the rabbi told him, "Better that you turn around and bow to this chair, but bow to something." How could he say that? Because Judaism has always taught that kafira is worse than avodah zorah. Atheism is worse than idolatry. So it's better if you bow to a golden calf than if you bow to yourself. Because that's chutzpah. I mean, who the heck do you think you are? Moving on. Page 39, the conclusion. Atheism, then, is rationally no more, and apparently a good deal less, convincing an answer to the mysteries of human existence and the universe than is belief in God. On this issue, Voltaire himself, an unrelenting antagonist of organized religion, said, "In the opinion that there is a God, there are difficulties. But in the contrary opinion, there are absurdities." Atheism not only suffers from a lack of answers and from amorality, it is for most of its adherents an intellectually lazy doctrine as well. Despite the fact, to many people, atheism is usually associated with the intellect. The majority of atheists have no more questioned their beliefs than most simple believers have questioned theirs. Many Jews today have doubts about God's existence. but they live as if God does not exist. They are agnostics, but live as atheists. But there are compelling intellectual, moral, and existential reasons to live as if God does exist. To live a Jewish life, even when you have doubts. You may be agnostic in theory, but in practice, you live a Jewish life or a secular life. Of course, the primary concern of this book, as we can see in the next chapter, is with the Jewish life. It is through living a Jewish life, even while struggling with one's doubts, that one becomes a good Jew. We're on page 40, and we're at the second question. Why do we need organized religion or Jewish laws? Isn't it enough to be a good person? And it brings down a quote from the Rambam, Maimonides, from his Mishnah Torah Hilchos Shabbos. The purpose of the laws of the Torah is to promote compassion, loving kindness, and peace in the world. Page 41. We need organized religion for the same reason we need organized political parties or any organized social movement. Whether it be to attain national independence, elect a particular candidate, or, in this case of Judaism, perfect the world through ethical monotheism. People with similar values and goals must organize themselves in order to have an effect upon the world. Why? Then, if we recognize the need for organization in so many areas of social concern, does it seem illogical or undesirable to many people that there be organization in religion? The answer lies in the understanding that most people have a religion, organized or not. They regard religion as an institution that regulates prayer and other rituals, and which demands certain beliefs about God. Consequently, many individuals feel that religion is or should be a private affair, and that organized religion is unnecessary since private affairs need not be organized. It may very well be that the religion to which many people have been exposed consists of little more than prayer, ritual, and belief. And in such cases, we agree that organized religion is largely organized irrelevance. But this type of religion has little in common with Judaism. Judaism is concerned with organizing people to better the world. It's an all-encompassing value, an action-shaping way of life, whose goal is the creation of a moral and holy nation, which in turn morally improves the world, and whose means are the laws, the mitzvahs of Judaism. Okay. Give me 1 second, guys. In order to realize this goal, all those individuals who are committed to it must organize themselves. Some did about 3,500 years ago, and they are known as Jews. Thus, Judaism is not at all an organized religion in the usual sense. The Jews are an organized group of people from every racial and ethnic background who are committed to the Jewish way of life, the Jewish way of perfecting the world. I made a video a few weeks back called Convert Yourself to Judaism. Basically, for people who live in places where conversions have either been banned by the state of Israel or places without any Jews. I also stated that when given the opportunity, one should reconvert with the proper Beit Din, a proper Jewish court. And I remember a guy emailed me and asked me, if I convert myself, would I be recognizing God's opinion as a full Jew? And I said, yes, of course. And he said to me, then why do I have to reconvert? So I said, my friend, you're asking the wrong question. The question you should be asking yourself is, why did you convert in the first place? And why do you want to be a Jew all alone? That behavior is antithetical to Judaism. It's conduct unbecoming. What do you think you are, Anton LaVey? The main reason someone should want to convert to Judaism is to join a team. Why? Because repairing the world is a team effort. And if you just want to give your children a better, brighter future, where's your children going to go to school? And who's your child going to marry if no one recognizes your conversion? So, a Jew who does not believe in organized religion could never be religiously successful as a Jew, if he could be a Jew at all. This is one of my main problems that I have with Karaite Judaism. Because Karaite Judaism is just that. A push to deorganize Judaism. How? Because if everyone is to interpret the scriptures for themselves, then Judaism can't stand. It can't stand, my friends. For you, an etrog will be an etrog, and for me, it'll be a mango. Right? You celebrate Yom Kippur on Monday, and I'll celebrate it on Thursday. Do you see how impossible it is? And how could someone eat in your house for Shabbos? I mean, they won't trust your shechita, right? The way you slaughter the animal. Because they have their own way, their own understanding of Scripture. That's the chaos. Friends, when you rely only on yourself, the collective dissolves. And so does Judaism. Karaite Jews, they call Orthodox Jews, they call them suckers. They say, you really believe all that rabbinical junk? So you know it's made up. They made it up. It's not an apple. It's an orange. See right here in the text. Smart guy, huh? Very smart. You don't think I know it's an orange? You don't think I can read Hebrew? My friends, one thing you may not have known about Orthodoxy and Orthodox Judaism and Orthodox Jews is that not every Orthodox Jew believes every word that comes from the rabbis. That sounds pretty heretical, huh? Well, I'm making the statement today. But the difference is that we don't dare go against it. Why? Because we know that the day we do, that day is the beginning of the end of our Judaism. That's why Orthodoxy numbers are a lot higher than Karaite numbers. That's why Karaites are outnumbered at least 5,000 to 1 in the Jewish world, in the religious Jewish world. Why? Because you can't go around calling yourself Jewish and living by your own rules. You have to learn to be flexible. You have to learn to bend and not break. And when Eliyahu Hanavi comes, we'll know whose Torah is true. And to go back to the initial statement brought down by the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos, the purpose of the Torah, my friends, is to promote compassion, loving kindness, and peace in the world. And I don't think you can do that alone. Moving on. Isn't it good enough to be a good person? The term good person is commonly misused today. Often, after advocating the adoption of a religious ethical system, we are challenged by questioners who claim to know good people who don't believe in and thus presumably do not need religion. When asked to define a good person, these people generally answer, someone who doesn't hurt anybody. We are convinced that most people define a good person as one who does not hurt anyone. The definition is wrong, my friends. However, it's very popular. A person whose conduct consists of not hurting anyone is not good. Such a person is merely not bad. To be a good person involves the active pursuit of good. It is not enough to merely refrain from hurting other human beings. One must intercede on their behalf. It says, do not stand by while your neighbor's blood is shed in Leviticus 19:16. Nor is it enough to refrain from personally performing an injustice. For in order to be good, one must seek out and rectify injustices performed by others. It says in Deuteronomy 16:20, justice, justice you shall pursue. And you shall burn the evil from amongst your midst. Deuteronomy 17:7. The insufficiency of defining goodness as not hurting others is clearly demonstrated by the general assessment of the behavior of most Germans under the Nazis. According to this definition, most Germans during the Holocaust were good people, since they didn't hurt anybody. Yet most of us do not consider such Germans good people, clearly indicating that we recognize the impossibility of defining a good person as one who does not hurt anyone. You do not have to do something bad in order to be bad. You have only to do nothing. This is why Judaism consists of so many positive laws of goodness. The Jew is commanded to give charity, silence gossip, visit the sick. In contrast, secular laws are almost all negative laws. Not to commit criminal acts. There are also very few secular laws demanding good acts, and nor do we wish to see many such laws passed. Hence the idea of religious individuals and a non-religious government. Judaism has developed what has come to be the most extensive system of legislated good known to mankind. When one considers all these moral imperatives, it becomes clear that most people are good only by the passive definition of not hurting anybody, while their goodness is deficient by Judaism's definition of active involvement. Be it helping Cambodian and Vietnamese boat people, retarded children, or Soviet Jews or other Soviet dissidents. This is obviously an old book. Opposing totalitarianism, or actively assisting any good cause unrelated to their immediate lives. Most of us are quite content to lead lives uncommitted to much other than ourselves. That's why I say that there's no great merit to only taking care of your own, because that's what's expected from a Jew. Okay, perhaps for a Noahide, in the biblical, not in the modern sense, it would be enough for him only to take care of his or herself. But Jews are expected to defy the norm, to go above and beyond what's expected of an ordinary person. This is Judaism, my friends. The first revolutionary belief system that taught us to love the stranger. It may sound like common sense to us, but these concepts didn't exist in earlier religions. The belief system that taught us, like Hillel says in Perko Avos, if I'm not for myself, then who will be for me? And if I'm only for myself, then what am I? And if not now, when? Moving on. For this reason, the great majority of people need a system of laws of ethics. Even the minority of people, which is preoccupied with moral issues, could use such a system. As Judaism long ago realized, and as a 20th century man must realize now, moral ideals do not suffice to create moral individuals and a moral world. Judaism's ideals are universal: peace and justice. And these concepts are by now virtually universally accepted ideals. And numerous ideologies, e.g. Christianity, Marxism, socialism, humanism, have arisen promising to realize these ideals, but without a legal ethical system such as Judaism's binding on their descendants. However, all the horrors perpetrated in the name of ideals constitute tragic but irrefutable testimony that ideals are not enough. And that a detailed system of ethical laws binding upon every individual is indispensable to achieving peace, justice, and brotherhood. To be better at anything, from a sport to an art, a system is necessary. Why not a system for goodness? It's interesting. It's interesting how the author here, he lumps Christianity in with Marxism, socialism, and here it says humanism. One correlation I see is in Christianity, one place where they stumble or fall in this category is that I've noticed, at least in the dating world, in the world of courtship. Right, a Christian has to input Christian ideals, but what are Christian ideals? If one is above the law, if one is led by faith through grace, right? But I noticed that Christians, in an attempt to embrace Christian ideals and not be legalistic, allow themselves to be led by their heart too many times. And especially in the area of courtship, of dating, like I said. An area that you don't want to be led by your heart. Why? Because it could often be dangerous, especially when you're courting the opposite sex, right? They make promises to wait till marriage, but 9 out of 10 times they don't. Why? Because you need that structure. You can't walk around thinking you know it all. And putting your trust in your heart, that's not a solid foundation. My friends, you can't make it alone. When a Christian tells me that they've been dating the same girl for 2 years and now he's thinking of proposing, who's he fooling? We all know you're sleeping together. That's lack of guidance. Guidance. When a guy taps you on the head and you fall on the ground and you tremble and you're going to tell me that's God, that's a lack of guidance. When someone tells me that he just sent a televangelist his diaper money, that's a lack of guidance. My friends, we need a code because sometimes common sense eludes us. I remember once I went on a trip with a friend of mine and his family, and he had younger siblings who also brought some of their church friends to come along on the trip. And then I noticed that my friend's little sister was cuddling in the back of the bus with one of the church boys, right? So I asked my friend's mother if she thought this was appropriate, inappropriate. And she said, "Oh, don't worry about that. They're just brothers and sisters in Christ." Silly woman. That's why we need standards, because most people can't figure it out alone. The human being suffers from not being able to live a balanced life. Friends, we need a code that shows us how to pray, what's too much, what's too little. Again, we need a standard to aspire to. Because honestly, you'll never feel that you're doing enough. Or perhaps you may fall into extremes, which also negates the role of bettering the world because you begin to alienate people. This just proves what it says in the book, that ideals are not enough and one needs a detailed system of ethical laws to be able to succeed religiously. A religion of the heart. What's that? And who does it benefit? I'll tell you who. Your ego. Moving on. There are, of course, any number of people who do not observe Jewish law and who are actively good. Although we commend the adoption of Judaism and its laws to them, as well for even greater ethical proficiency. Judaism holds that for the non-Jew, this goodness is quite enough. And that such a non-Jew has a portion in the world to come. And is entitled to material support from the Jewish community whenever necessary. As it's brought down in Leviticus 25, verse 35 through 6. It says, "Non-Jews are not obligated to assume the burden of Judaism and its laws, though we are delighted when any do. Jews, however, are obligated to observe Jewish laws because they are obligated to become as good as is humanly possible, to also become holy, and to keep the Jewish people and its mission alive. To achieve these ends is the task of Jewish laws, an understanding of which we now offer. Jewish law, which is the next chapter. Now, this description of non-Jew, of a righteous non-Jew, is clearly a hopeful one. Hopeful in the sense that we hope that God truly views righteous non-Jews this way and not the way that it's brought down in halacha. If anyone has ever been interested in learning what are the halachas a non-Jew is held liable to, I mean, you can research it yourself. In Chabad.org has the Rambam's Mishnah Torah in it in English. It's under Hilchos Malachim. Because really, halachically, there is no reason for a non-Jew to remain a Noahide. Why? Because it's just too difficult to adhere to what God requires of them. Many think it's just 7 laws, but actually it's more like 7 categories of laws, which really stretch from around 67 to 620 laws. And not to mention that the slightest infraction could leave you on death row. and also about having a portion in the world to come, the rabbis explain that it's a much smaller portion than that of Jews. So this is one of the main reasons I actually encourage non-Jews to consider Judaism, for their own sake and for the world's. But however, with this book's interpretation of righteous Gentile, I would still encourage non-Jews to convert, but more for the world's sake and not for theirs. If you guys have never heard of the laws of Noah, they're a prohibition against idolatry, against murder, against theft, against sexual immorality, against sexual immorality, blasphemy, and blasphemy, the prohibition of eating a limb from a live animal, right? Every minachai, and the commandment to establish courts of justice to enforce the previous 6, right? But again, let me remind you, if you're not Jewish and you're sincere about repairing the world, I want to encourage you to consider Judaism. And if you're not, then remain as you are, remain a Noahide. Why? Because the Jews weren't appointed to be religiously or socially stagnant. No, my friends, as it says in Genesis 18:19, it says, "For I have appointed Abraham so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." So friends, if you know a born Jew who doesn't measure up to what a Jew should be, it's not inconsistency in the text, but rather those people who may stem from a Semitic stock are not Jews. As it states in Exodus 33, verse 15, "Then Moses said to him, 'If your presence does not go with us, do not send us from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us?'" And here's the key, my friends. He says, "What else will distinguish me and your people from all the peoples on the face of the earth?" Meaning that without God, our lives, us, people who claim to be Jewish, are no different than anybody else. So don't argue with me. Argue with Torah. Now, you'll probably say that, well, Asher, my rabbi told me that I'm special because I have a Jewish spark, or because of Jewish blood. Well, you can go to the JJJ with that racist nonsense, because these rabbis are distorting Torah. Moving on. Jewish law. There are 4 categories of Jewish law. Every Jewish law falls into one or more of these categories. 1. Reflective laws, to elevate the performer of the law. 2. Laws of ethics, to ensure moral treatment of others. 3. Laws of holiness, to elevate human actions from animal-like to God-like. And 4. National laws, to identify with the Jewish nation and with its past. I'm going to repeat these because they're very, very powerful. Number 1, reflective laws, to elevate the performer of the law. 2, the laws of ethics, to ensure moral treatment of others. 3, laws of holiness, to elevate human actions from animal-like to God-like. And 4, national laws, to identify with the Jewish nation and with its past. Now, these categories are not brought down anywhere by the rabbis, but they might as well be, because this, my friends, this explanation is what Jews are lacking, which is what Dennis Prager and Joseph and Rabbi Joseph Telushin's trying to say here. They're trying to give us a purposeful reason for the mitzvahs. The rabbis bring down chukim and mishpatim, right? And they interpret chukim as erroneously as laws that we cannot know the meaning of, but yet we still have to do. Instead of just saying that they're laws between man and God. And mishpatim are clearly laws between man and man. Friends, this is one of the main reasons many Jews unconsciously go through life acting out their rituals without kavanah or simcha. A concept that is foreign to the Hebrew scriptures and fights against it when it says in Deuteronomy 4:6, it says, observe them, meaning the Torah, the mitzvahs. For this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all these decrees and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. Yes, my friends, and performing mitzvahs in a comatose state does not appear wise to me. Actually, the Rambam brings down here it's quoted in the footnote in his work, The Guide for the Perplexed, Part 3, Chapter 31. It says, there is a group of human beings who consider a grievous thing that causes should be given for any law. What would please them most is that the intellect would not find a meaning for the commandments and prohibitions. What compels them to feel thus is a sickness that they find in their souls. A sickness to which they are unable to give utterance, and of which they cannot furnish a satisfactory account. For they think that if those laws were useful in this existence and had been given to us for this or that reason, it would be as if they derived from the reflection and understanding of some intelligent being. If, however, there's a thing for which the intelligent could not find any meaning at all, and that does not lead to something useful, it undoubtedly derives from God. From the reflection of man would lead to no such thing. So even here the Rambam brings down that we do know the reason for keeping the Torah. And if there's some mitzvahs that may be temporarily hidden from us, God willing, we will know. Okay. Where are we here? Okay. We're under reflective laws. Okay, very well. Every act we perform affects us. We often lose sight of this, but the fact is that our actions influence us at least as much as we influence our actions. Every Jewish law affects the performer, but there are certain Jewish laws whose purpose is almost exclusively to affect the performer. The most obvious example is prayer, whose primary purpose is to affect the person praying. This is why the very word in Hebrew to pray, lechitpalel, is a reflective verb which means to judge or examine oneself. God does not need our prayers. We do. A person who takes time out regularly to examine himself is inevitably affected by the act. Another example of a reflective Jewish law is that concerning tzitzit, the fringe to be worn at the corner of one's garment. The reflective purpose of the law is clearly set forth in the Torah. And God spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and tell them to make tzitzit, fringes, on the corners of their garments throughout the generations, so that you will see it and remember all my commandments." That's in Numbers 15:38. Reflective laws. Reflection. Living a conscious and perceptive existence. Right? That's what you do as a Jew. Eating a banana is not eating a banana anymore, but it's rather an opportunity to set a mental landmark by showing gratitude to the Creator. Friends, weeks as a Jew don't go by anymore meaninglessly, but end with Shabbos. Relationships are no longer mere opportunities to conjugate with the opposite sex, but rather they're sanctified through marriage. This is what separates us from the animal, who lives day by day without knowing that they exist. Everything we do in life as a Jew becomes an opportunity. Living life consciously, perceptively, to the fullest. Welcome to Judaism, my friends. After this class, don't miss Rabbi Kolakowski's class on Kabbalah and Hasidus. Even though, you guys know my view on Kabbalah, I think it'll be beneficial for some people. The class starts at 9. It may be 9:01, 9:05. I'm going to check the chat room here. Let's see. Well, the class is at 9, so then it starts in like 10 minutes. Right, tonight. The class will start like in 5 to 10 minutes. And it's going to be given by Rabbi Kolakowski, which is, Kabbalah and Hasidus is really his field. I have him giving classes on to be a Jew and Kitzur Shachanarch, but people who know him know he's a big makubal. Okay, that's gonna end this class for tonight. Please tell your friends about RadioTorah.com, where they can listen to Torah classes 24 hours a day. And we also have it in Spanish. It's the same RadioTorah.com, but without an H. Okay. Thanks. And if anyone wants to know more about Judaism, please visit bejewish.org. Okay. Thanks.